I mean, you are, without question, not probably, without question, you guys are the biggest tri podcast. And actually, I think I sent you a message saying, who have you got to shag to get on here?
Endurance Therapy, the show that gives back. In a new era for the show, with a hopefully more structured format, with marginally better editing, but the same shitty hosts. This week's hosts: Tim Reed, the angriest gnome to ever win a world title; Nat Heath, age group legend and CEO of the inspirational Tri-Mob; and Clint Rawlings, a man, a human man.
Tom Lucky, far out. Okay.
The name of the podcast is Endurance Therapy.
Yep.
Well, we are back, guys. I'm really sorry. We had a very extended break. I know people have been losing sleep for months without the Triathlon Therapy podcast, but we needed a break. Clint and I, and maybe even you, Nat, you understand how mentally draining working with humans all day can be. And I had a full midlife crisis burnout.
It does happen, but we're back. We're here, ready to rip.
That's right. We're actually changing the name now. So we're going from Triathlon Therapy to Endurance Therapy because we want to broaden our wings like an eagle, Nat. And we're going to talk a little bit more about cycling because we all love cycling. We're going to talk a bit more about ultra running when the big events happen. So let's kick it off, guys. We had Milan San Remo on the last weekend. And I mean, for those that don't know, that are from the triathlon world, it's basically a 298-kilometer race that it's sort of open to who could win it. A sprinter could win it. A climber could win it. Why it's 298 Ks, nobody really knows. It's very long, and you don't really need to start watching until maybe 100 kilometers to go. The big story was Pogačar crashed, and he crashed hard, and then, like the freak that he is, next minute he's just back on the front and gets the sprint win from Tom Peacock, and just an absolutely incredible performance for the one classic that's really evaded him for quite some time. Clint, is Pogačar the greatest cyclist of all time, or at least in the modern era?
Modern era, yes. This is something that, if we talk about it in terms of triathlon as well, I hate comparing the different eras because it was a different era, right? And if I get ready banging on about super shoes, we'll be here for 2.5 hours. But the different eras need to be compared to what they are for that point, and the way he wins and his versatility. Yes, the answer is yes.
Agreed. I think it's worth noting that a bit like the Norwegians, Pogačar, there's a lot of skeptics out there, obviously, with cycling's history, but he's been phenomenal from quite young and developed over a long period of time. And if he gets through this whole career and there's never any allegations proven that he's cheated in any way, I think that in itself will put him as the greatest of all time, because I can't think of any of the others that fit into the GOAT conversation who have a completely clean history. Even the great Eddie Merckx, I think, popped 3 times for different things towards the end of his career. Speaking of popping,
popping.
The man that shouldn't eat gluten, Nat Heath. Tell me, Nat, we are now a podcast that's giving back, in that we're going to have a Patreon link in the the Endurance Therapy Instagram. What do you call it? Profile. And so 50% on most episodes will go towards the charity of our choice for that episode, or the guest who's on their choice of charity. For this episode, 100% of any Patreon sign-ons will go to Nat Heath's great organisation, Tri-Mob. Now, Nat, you gave us a little breakdown the other day when we did this podcast and it didn't record, of what Tri-Mob is. I want you to do that in half the time because I nearly fell asleep.
Mate, well, g'day everyone. Tri-Mob's, First Nations org that's essentially getting mob into the sport of triathlon or endurance sports. And I'm actually just down here in Husky, Reedy, for the big Husky Festival. We've got 7 of our athletes who are training up for the Ironman WA journey. So they'll be taking on the classic distance. But we're essentially just getting mob into the sport of triathlon and running, swimming, cycling, to improve health and well-being.
that's
Yeah.
that,
I was
beautiful.
listening.
Nat, just before we move on from Milan San Remo, some of the athletes were sent the wrong way. Now, Nat, we've seen this happen in our sport over the years and lots of different sports. Who's responsible, athlete or race organisers / volunteers?
Yeah, I think if for particularly like at the UCI level where the guys were sent the wrong way in that race, that's on the race directors. It's interesting in the sport of triathlon, but I think it's on the event when it comes to the professionals, particularly because they're working at such a high rate. There's not much blood flow going to the brain that it needs to be really clearly punctuated for the professionals. But I think for people like yourself, Clint, and me, as age groupers, it's on us. So I think it differs from athlete, but yeah, it's at that professional level, definitely on the race director.
Reid, did you have any
Yep.
races that were
Fair point. Yeah,
affected?
no, I agree. I think we had a recent situation. I think it was the half marathon US champs, and it had big implications for who was going to maybe qualify for the Olympic team or world championship. I'm not sure. I didn't follow it closely, but I do know massive controversy because the leader of the race, who was having the race of their life, was the lead car went the wrong way. And then, of course, the Athletics Federation over there was like, oh, well, it's the responsibility of the athlete. They're very old. That's why they talk like that. And it absolutely is ridiculous that someone should be penalised for what is obviously the race director's mistake, or even just the lead car's mistake. And you've got to, the organizer has to do what's right by the athletes and come to a situation where the athlete that did go the right way doesn't miss out, and the athlete that clearly was misdirected also gets what should be rightfully their reward. At the end of the day, it's the pros are racing so many times per year. Sometimes it'll be an event like that half marathon. I think there's something like 28 different turns. No one is going to take the time to memorize that if you think that the lead car or the directions should be in place that are very clear. So I agree with you, Nat, in that in certain situations it is the athlete's responsibility, but common sense needs to apply when an official or a volunteer or something clearly directs someone the wrong way.
Therein lies that's the perfect word, Reedy, volunteer. Lots of our events are run by volunteers, or like we heavily rely on volunteers to get the events done. So if they're just taking time out of their day to come and help you do your hobby as an age grouper, so just keep that in mind. If they send you the wrong way, we all make mistakes. We move on. Speaking of moving on,
Ironman 70.3 Geelong.
Let's just quickly run through it. Hayden Wild did Hayden Wild things, very aggressive on the bike, ended up leading off the bike. Interestingly, I actually went and had a look at what happened because I was in transition, and he pretty much snapped the cleat off his shoe, something like it was, and he was so lucky that it happened pretty much with the 2K to go or a K to go, and was able to just roll into transition. Had a good lead. Interestingly, Yelly Geens, I also think was quite aggressive on the bike. So I think that might have also hurt him a little bit. But either way, the absolute standout performance was from Christian Blumenfeld, who you guys might recall from the first time we tried this, actually from our first attempt pre-Geelong, that I did predict him to win the race. The reason being that he is just an animal. In fact, he's a bull. He's just a raging bull. And I knew in New Zealand, when you chatted to him before the race, he was sick going into the race. He never has two bad races in a row, and he uses bad circumstances as fuel. And he came out, he got dropped on the bike. Whether he got dropped or whether he just was smart enough to go, no, this is not going to help me have the best overall performance I can, I don't know. But I do think the 20-meter rule, Clint, Nat, is a huge development, because you can back off from the group and know that, hey, they're not going to put 3, 4, 5 minutes into me like they would have if they're all getting a 20% advantage sitting behind each other and taking turns. So I think the 20-meter rule sort of might have played into his mindset. He got off the bike and was just snarling and ran through like a man possessed. And I think he was just running out at like sub 3-minute K pace. And I honestly think, it wouldn't have mattered if there was someone to catch or not. I just feel like he just wanted to go and suffer like a raging bull. And he just went out and ran. By the time he caught Hayden, Yelly Geens did really well to finish as close as he did behind him. I think being in the middle of an Ironman prep was phenomenal for his performance. Hayden did fall off the pace a little bit. And I should say, we recorded this before their episode was out, but Pro Triathlon News I actually really like Talbot. I think he's one of the real good guys in triathlon who's done so much for pros and would do it regardless of profit. But I got to call him out on this one. He gave me shit for saying in the post-race presser, I asked Hayden, when did you feel like it sort of unraveled? And he was like, he ran a 109. That was a stupid question. And Talbot, you bloody doorknob. I'm not comparing to your run time. 109 is fantastic, obviously. Even for my career, I would have been stoked with the 109. I think my fastest was 110s, but that was back in the sandal days. So maybe that's a 108 in the modern shoes. But yeah, I was referring to the fact that Hayden hasn't been outrun in hardly any race ever. You look at the Olympics, yes, one world championship, yes, but he is one of the best runners in the sport, and he did suddenly start running 20 seconds per K slower. So that was what I was referring to. But yeah, he did fall apart a bit. I think that Hayden will learn from that race. I think he needs to realize how good the other athletes are and just control the amount of surges on the bike. And then I think he's, sort of back into unbeatable shape over that distance. We do see, Nat, that that extra distance has seemed to actually hurt him a little bit compared to the T100 distance where he just absolutely dominated. But then again, it was a late call for him to do that race. Maybe it wouldn't have made any difference. Christian Blumenfeld, what a run. 106.30 to win the race. Yelly Geens, fantastic as well. I won't go too much further into the race. I've already gone way longer than I promised. Question, Clint?
No, just I guess the standout obviously was Christian with his patience. And then onto the female race, it was a similar. Yes, Kat did Kat things and just kind of got to the front of the race. And then I don't know whether she actually ran as hard as she had to. She ran as hard as she had to. I don't know whether she actually buried herself, but to see Grace Tech run a 119 and get within 30 seconds of her, patient on the bike, and then just rip in on the run. And with 5K to go, it looked like she might have a chance, which is always good, when you're watching from home or when you're there, to think maybe she can make this really interesting. She's Ironman Texas in a few weeks. So hopefully I always get nervous when people that far out from a race, like Sunny Coast used to be the same for Hawaii. They'd go there and light it up, and then 4 weeks later, you'd be concerned about them in Hawaii. So hopefully she's managing her load well into Texas. And third was Tamara Jewett. Same thing, ran through the field. I think she was 10 minutes back. I heard Mark Matthews give Kat a split to Tamara as she got off the bike. So clearly people realize how well she can actually run. But yeah, great racing across both males, females.
My quick thoughts on the ground, Clint, was Tamara looked like she was hurting from the beginning. I think she ran a 2:42 marathon in New Zealand, and 2 weeks later, I think she would have been in immense pain, which just shows how tough she is to still run like she did. Kat Matthews' bike just impressed me. It's like, okay, now I'm ready to close the gap, and boom, she just closes the gap. And I thought that she might have backed off a bit. Just she realized she had it in the bag. But then listening to the Pro Triathlon podcast, I realized when Mark said no, she was actually suffering. So full credit. What toughness to get through that when off the back of a fast marathon for herself 2 weeks ago. And then, of course, Grace, she just keeps impressing, right? She's hung in there through some pretty big injuries and really is making her way onto the top of the world stage now.
Reedy, in the show name being endurance therapy, what do you think is going on in Hayden's head? You talked about him with the longer distances, but probably the couple of big races where he's had the athletes at full potential. You could probably make the argument T100 last year where he's dominating. Yelly Geens was his biggest competitor, but maybe Yelly in retrospect was really tapering himself up to the 70.3 world champs. So he's been done by him and KB last race, got done by Yelly in 70.3 world champs. He's had obviously the Olympic.
But that was 2024, just to note.
Correct, yeah. But the big races, he's had a bit of falter. Do you think he's got any mental demons coming out of that, or you think he'll be okay?
I don't. I think that one, he probably wasn't specifically training for this race. I think that he has always raced aggressively, and that's what makes him so exciting to watch. But I think there'll come a time like where he will just realize, okay, I don't have to do that on the bike. He's good enough bike or run to win the race either way. But the more guaranteed win for him is with his running pedigree. It's just cool your jets a bit on the bike. Like you can outrun anyone. I mean, he's so phenomenal, even off the bike in every other distance, and even fresh running. It's like next level running. So
I know it's like probably like cruel or a bit embarrassing for me to pick it apart, but like is it a confidence thing? Like he can outrun, like we all think that he can outrun them, but it's almost like I'm not saying he panics, but he feels like that last effort off the bike, like he made a conscious effort to lift intensity to try and drop them and get a minute. I know that might be in his head. I'm racing. I want to get that gap and get out there. But like, is that coming from a place of maybe lacking confidence that he can just outrun them?
I actually think he's a bit more of like the Alistair Brownlee category, where he's just got a gear that others don't have. I don't think he went to wave the guys through, not realizing that he dropped them. So I don't know if it was a conscious decision to drop everyone. I think he knew that, Christian was off the back, so maybe he was pushing the pace for that, but I don't think he realized he dropped Yelly as well. So I think it's, I remember we did this Swift race through COVID. And this was when my heart issues were at their peak. I think I had to pull out halfway through when I went out into arrhythmia again. But we were all racing, and we're doing this big climb. We're all riding at 320, 330 watts or whatever, and then I'm looking at Alistair's power and he's at like 420. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, obviously he's a bigger guy than me, but still, I was like, that is another level. And I think Hayden's a bit like that. He can do it, and he does it, but there is glycogen consequences by the time you have to run 21K. You just can't. He could just, that 15 watts lower, and the rate of glycogen burnt could be so different that he can, run, just hold his fast pace for longer. So yeah, I think it's just he's got the ability, and sometimes when you've got that ability, I don't have to use it is a big decision, and probably something he needs to employ. But maybe it's just a case of he'll probably keep doing that, but just actually train specifically for the event. So I'm a big fan. I love the excitement he brings to a race. I mean, as much as guys like Yelly are like amazing to watch, it's nice to have that dynamic of a very controlled racer, and then you got someone who you like don't know where it's going to head with Hayden.
Mate, speaking of excitement and not knowing where the race is going to head, T100, Ocean Swim, Rips, completely different scenario to what we've seen in the T100 series. What were your guys' thoughts on having the open water swim and how that played out for the race?
Mate, it was the best viewing. Like more of it, I say. Like it made it. There was several people who stuffed up, swam the wrong way. Just apparently the day before, some of the Euros were in tears down there after doing the. Not that I love to see people in tears, but I'm just saying like it challenges them, and it adds exactly what you just said, Reed, with like a race dynamic that, to be fair, a lot of the time you can watch the start of the swim, if we compare it to, say, Geelong, where it's just like a big triangle, very flat, and we go, okay, the group split, now it's done. Where there was action the whole way through that swim, and then it did affect the way. And to be fair, in a swim like that, you can't just get like, if we compare to Geelong again, you can't just get out there and just swim your intensity that you're capable of and be done with it. You actually have to vary your intensity, swim hard through the white water. You'll be struggling under waves, that kind of thing. So I think it really will affect the race if they continue to do things like that. On that race, great racing across the board. Taylor doing what Taylor has done a lot of the time, but the podium was very impressive with Jess Fulligar being in front till like 50K. Borrowed time trial bike apparently. Hasn't done, I think it's a second or third long course race. Took Taylor 50 odd kilometers to get to her, and then she held it at between 30 seconds and a minute the whole way through. So like played her role, whereas if Taylor faltered at all and if she had a bowel mishap or something like that, which has happened in the past. It just means that Jess was there to, keep the pressure on. And in third, Imogen Simmons, a very hectic year last year with the not being able to race, the allegations being proven innocent, and then getting back to racing, there would have been some massive self-induced pressure. And so it was really good to see her, one, do well, and also to like really celebrate when she came across the line. Nat, you were up there. I don't know if you watched much of that race, but the whole event as a whole, how was it?
Yeah, so I was fortunate, got to race on the Sunday. We had about 15 of the Tri-Mob athletes out there. From the amateur race, I'll say it was unbelievable. Everyone came away buzzing from that race. So I think there's a huge amount of potential. And I've seen that they've already got entries open for next year. Yeah, I've got nothing but positive feedback. If there was one constructive criticism or feedback, would be to do something in regards to the four-loop course on the amateur race. In regards to the professionals, I think it was, really impressive to see just the level of female racing and just what Taylor Knibb is doing at the moment. It's incredible. The one thing that does kill me and is seeing like Jessica Fulligar, who's a part of the English team, they've employed Phil Clayton for the last couple of years, who's an Australian surf life clubby from back in the day, who's been working with the Poms on their swim. You can see how that's paid dividends at the Paris Olympics. Then Jess has come out and dominated the swim. And the fact that he's in Gold Coast right next to the Oz Triathlon training system and we're not employing him just absolutely kills me. And you could just see how important it is to have such good coaching quality at that higher level. But I thought it was a fantastic overall event. And I did love the fact that the women were really highlighted as the first race of the year. I was speaking to Joshy Amberger on the Saturday, and there's a bit of talk around whether they have male and female brought back together, a bit like the issue with Kona. It seems like from the pro level, it sounds like they kind of want things back together. But I did think it was nice that if they were going to kick off the season, did start with the women this year.
Shutting down Gold Coast, like the main highways and everything up there, and having the crowds they did for female sport was just all time, right? Like it was just so good to see that they got so much support. Reedy, with the what's the answer to making that distance between, like, say, the sprint, the Olympic draft legal and the long distance? It's kind of the melting pot of all athletes, and they all get to test themselves against each other. What's the answer to, like, or what do you think is the way to make that a really viewer-friendly product?
Yeah, I mean, I've said some pretty ridiculous ideas over my time. I still stand by them. I think that we there's nothing wrong with having an in and out in the swim, and then you have to jog up a cliff and jump off a cliff back in or something, But like you can find, you go and look at the Tooheys Blue series on YouTube if it even exists. There are ways to make it more fun. I think it should be a tight lapped course. I think people should be lapped out if they get caught. I think that you don't have to go with this standardized distance.
Look at the surfing. People love surfing because it's different waves suit different people. Golf courses suit different people. Tennis, Rafael Nadal without clay is not, one of the greatest Grand Slam winners of all time, potentially. I think people are interested, to your point of let's see who is the overall best triathlete and have a mix and match of different distances or different races to try to see who is the overall best.
Yeah.
What about
100%? Like, I think you could have a gravel triathlon that suddenly all these amazing pros, we get to see how good's their bike handling on some loose dirt. Have a cyclocross version. Have a bloody hill championship where it's like the run starts at the bottom of a hill and finishes at the top of a hill. Like, I just feel like, or even if it's just up and down a 2K hill, like, I just think there's ways they just got to think of it outside the box a little more. You got such a good product. The broadcast is great. Commentary's great. Like, it's exciting, but it's exciting for me who loves the sport. Like, we've got to make it exciting for someone who turns it on and goes, this is crazy. I'm going to watch this every time it comes on.
Yeah. So it's pretty much human.
Just love the fact that the third time round, And I was like nervous because it's like, I freaking nailed the last episode. And now I just can't even get my words out.
No, so like if we look at it really, like remember the very first T100 they did it at the Daytona track or wherever it was, and they got the Daytona commentators in and they had splits, stats, how fast they were going. Essentially, they were using triathletes as human Indy cars or human supercars or whatever. More of it. Treat them as just performance pieces of machinery, and we make them race over different circuits. And
100%, Clint. I've always said the athlete first model is not what it should be. It should be spectator first model. You know, if there's a few deaths along the way, that's okay, as long as the spectator wins. Speaking of commentary, I want to say, like, obviously Apo is excellent. I knew he'd be good because he just froths on the sport and he's had a lot of practice on our podcast and that other podcast. Apo was great. Rinny's good, great. And Crowie, I think, is always really, really excellent with his insights as well. So keep the Aussies on board.
you know you're doing well at commentary when there's not a single negative thing said about you on Slow Twitch, and it was glowing responses about Apo. So it was good to listen to.
The only thing that worries me is him potentially moving back to Australia and then not being near the Boulder studio, and that might be a bit of a dilemma. But yeah, no, he was really good.
What was the Slow Twitch feedback like for Reedy, Clint?
No, they didn't talk about him. They said no. I just saw a few they were talking about Apo, which was good to see. Good to see some positivity.
Nerd approved or turd to be removed. Segment sponsor Nerd Belts. Use code Endurance Therapy for a big discount at nerdbelt.com.
Study, ready? Nerd or a turd?
Oh, so we got a new segment. It is nerd approved or a turd to be removed. So basically we pick a study each time we're on and we say whether it's got good implications that we should all learn from or whether it's a pile of steaming dung that needs to be removed. I don't want to go deep into it because we've done it twice already. But essentially the ex-Twitter world was alight with a meta-analysis that looked at whether creatine had an effect on lean muscle mass in the absence of training. And I couldn't believe that this was even news. Essentially, the study showed that if you don't do the resistance training, creatine will have little to no effect, basically, which is absolutely mind-blowing that someone even bothered to test this or that it was even news in the social media realm. Of course, creatine is effective when you train. If you don't train, it's not going to do much, except there might be cognitive benefits, but that's a different argument. I just found this study a complete pile of big turd. Pile of turd? Does that work?
It can be, depending on the consistency of your turd, Reed.
It's a pile when I've eaten gluten, so yeah, let's run with that.
Yeah, I just thought it was it was just a crap study that was very obvious. So
it was a crap study.
We're putting that in the pile to be removed.
The fact that you've wasted mine and Clint's time twice with this study, and I will never get this 10 minutes back of our life. It's a massive turd.
Nat and I just sat there and just listened. Fair, but I mean, it's always funny when those kind of studies come out, Reed, and you look at the specifics of it, and someone's pretty much got people on board to take creatine and do nothing and give their feedback. It's like, some studies you read, you just think to yourself, what on earth is happening here? Like there's so many holes in what you're doing, and that has a lot of holes. Turd to be removed.
So
speaking of holes, Clint. Speaking of holes, Clint, let's talk about the massive hole in the TUE system in pro sport. Fill me in.
Well, what I love is the fact that one of the big dogs in the sport currently is using his I guess we say power, I don't know, whatever we want to call it, to do good while he's in the sport. Sam Laidlow put up a screen recording of all the TUEs that have been applied for since 2019 all the way through in all sports, but then he went down towards triathlon, and there was, since 2019, there's been 78 applied for, 54 approved, 17 withdrawn or not needed, and 1 denied TUE. Now, he's calling for that to be all public. And when he's previously done this, he did it at Roth with the drafting. He said, after the race, I want it all to be public, and all app pros need to know that it's public. What it did, he put that out. He put out a form and said, everyone who wants to be a part of this, fill out the form. The form crashed because he got so many people trying to sign it at once. So he had to redo it and go again. He put up a screenshot on his story of all the people applying. It was cyclists, it was athletics, like high level athletic competitors. Then Jocelyn McCauley was the only one who had one denied. She got on Instagram, explained why it got denied, and what it was transparency, which is awesome. So Reed, what are your thoughts on this becoming transparent? If you apply it goes to the masses.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. For me, I can understand the argument not to make it transparent, but I think the bigger issue is what has been approved. Like, there are clearly 2UE exemptions that are allowed that would be very performance enhancing. And in my mind, it's like, okay, if someone needs this sort of treatment, they shouldn't be able to race for 6 to 12 months. Like, if they really need it for their health, we need to make sure that there is no benefit for when they do compete. It's wild to me what is permitted just because you've got a doctor to say you need it. The other thing is too, like, if someone has an ongoing health issue that they have to manage with medication that is performance enhancing, or as the other side effect would be performance enhancing, well, tough titties. Like, life isn't fair. Maybe you can't be a pro athlete. If that's what you need to take to be at a pro level, like, that's okay. It's not okay. You shouldn't be racing as a pro. Like, it's
the amount of elite
it's
endurance athletes that need have asthma, need a puffer, just doesn't make sense.
Well, I think if they can clearly prove that there's not a performance benefit, but there is a performance benefit, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to compete. You know, like, and I'm someone who took asthma medication, but if they said to me it's banned, I would understand why. You know, like, I wouldn't be against it. To be honest, I actually agree with you. I don't think it should be allowed. And I didn't take it whenever I didn't, as much as I would have it often with me, and I used it only at last resort, because I actually found, for me, I didn't get a performance advantage from it. I found I would typically have to take it, and then I'd have all sorts of issues later in the race. Like, I felt like it put my heart rate up too much. I felt like I would get cramps from my asthma medication. So I didn't want to take it. Other people I know didn't have those side effects, so maybe there was a benefit. And of course, then you've got the Chris Froome sort of situation where potentially people are abusing it because it is allowed to get, weight loss benefits and things like that. So no, I'm with you, Nat. I think if anything is slightly performance enhancing and you need to take it for medical reasons, too bad, buddy. Don't race.
It's a slippery slope, isn't it? Because it's, where does it start? Where does it stop?
Well, if you look at like what Reedy just said, like, it was almost detrimental to his performance to have the asthma puffer, or where others might have it and they get a massive benefit. Well, then, it's almost, and I could probably get him ranting here, it's like super shoes, Tim. Some people get benefit, don't they, and others don't.
Yeah, and that's I've always said things need to be level. So if we didn't have responders to super shoes and non-responders, we've clearly measured on this treadmill behind me, I can find athletes that get up to a 6% benefit with a super shoe and athletes get 2%. So it's not a level playing field. Now, as technology progresses, I actually had a phone call with a guy, won't say his name, but was working with On their running technology and wanted to be coached by one of our coaches. Individualization of the shoe, the customization will progress so much now in the future, and that may close the gap between responders and non-responders. But regardless, high stride rate, smaller runners are never going to get the same benefit as long legs, tall runners. And you see that with some of the performances now. I've always used Lionel as an example. He was running 109s back, in the shoes we used to run in. The performance gained from super shoes was never that big for him. And I feel bad for guys like that, because I think guys that are Sam Long, is obviously running exceptionally well, but I think you put him in the shoes that Lionel used to have to race in, I don't think he's running anywhere near Lionel. And I could be totally wrong on that, but you just watch the spring he gets out of every strike. So yeah, I've always argued that it's not a level playing field with that, and I think it's the same with medications. You could even argue with caffeine. I mean, some people get an 11% up to an 11% advantage, and some are non-responders. I'd probably ban caffeine, which is people go, "Oh, that's outrageous," and I'm like, well, we have a standard on some things, and then not on others. I think we have to find a principle we stick to, and that's what we go off.
Could you imagine?
I ran.
No, it was so good. It was so good. Could you imagine if they banned all substances like that? Half the professional triathletes would just go, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to corporate world or whatever.
Oh, mate, I always said I don't think I actually enjoy triathlon or exercise. I think I just enjoy caffeine, and it's the way to just simmer down the anxiety that the caffeine brings.
You kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
Oh, this is a new segment that will be a regular one. Each host has to put forward something they found outrageous that week, fortnight, or since we did the last show. It can be a funny thing. It can be positive. It can be a negative thing. Clint, what are you gonna throw up for me?
Positive, and previously I ranted a bit, so I'll try and keep it a bit shorter. Quinn Darragh, one of the Bondi lifeguards, tried to swim 24 hours in just loops of Bondi Bay, raising money for Ocean Heroes. Very passionate about it, clearly. Decided I'm going to use my body as a vessel to make as much money as humanly possible. 13 hours in, they pulled him out of the water. Don't know what went wrong yet, but I don't care that he didn't make the 24 hours. I am super impressed the fact that he just publicly put it out there and said, I'm going to do something stupid, crazy, to try and raise money for something I'm passionate about. And to swim, I think it was 64 laps of Bondi Beach, like the loop. If anyone who's swum that will understand that that's a pretty insane effort, swimming into the night. So Quinn Darragh, Ocean Heroes fundraiser is my crazy one.
Quinn Darragh, we salute you. And I agree, Clint. These sort of things are amazing when someone has to be pulled out for medical reasons. And I think the only thing I don't like is when people jump into some challenge to raise money and they're literally 10% into it and like, oh, this is bloody hard, I'm out.
Well done, Quinn. Great to see someone from Bondi fundraising for an actual charity. So my one is people raising money for organisations that aren't charities or aren't actual organisations. I'll give that one a plug. There's a bit of that going on around Australia. My second one's a follow-up from Phil Clayton, Oz Triathlon. Reach out to him. And the third one is the price of petrol and particularly diesel at the moment. It's killing businesses and it's not helping my business at the moment, especially when we're picking up people and taking them across the country. So to the people out there starting World War III, get your shit together.
Yeah. Lucky for Clint and I, RPG vehicles are all electric.
I did think about this. I was like, do I go down to my own little gurgler here? And I thought, well, Elon Musk is on the Trump administration. You're driving an Elon Musk car. Is this like COVID and Microsoft? What's going on here? Is this all a part of a bigger conspiracy? But I won't go down that gurgler, even though I've gone down that gurgler.
It's definitely not, it doesn't comfort me that Elon supports Trump. It's funny because I didn't used to hate Elon. I thought, geez, this guy's, he's obviously autistic, but quite clever. And then, it's yeah, mate. Okay, so, all right, my are you joking me for this week? I did mention Steve not ever carrying spares for the last 2 years he raced pro. He used to just call an Uber every time he got a flat tire. I thought that was quite outrageously funny. And then, but my main one is, you know what really cracks me? You know what gets me is people, even my generation and older, we've all benefited from affordable housing and a massive increase in prices. And most of us work our asses off, but we've created wealth out of dumb luck. Clint, you bought a house, probably gone up heaps. I bought a house, gone up heaps, upgraded. And then we somehow have convinced ourselves, it's because we're hardworking and the younger generations aren't. And especially baby boomers who all have 3 or 4 houses off like single income life. And then they're like, oh, well, you guys, these young kids don't know how to save and blah, blah, blah. No one's actually doing the maths on whether they would be able to do that as a 25-year-old now, or a 22-year-old or a 20, whatever. It's like, do the maths, guys. Like the cost of living since 2019 is pretty much, gone up, doubled. No, not even doubled. I think it's gone up 25% or something like that. But wages have gone up 12% or 10%, maybe less. But it's just, what really annoys me is we've got this situation where people have so much in this country, baby boomers in particular, and no one's making the call to actually make things more equitable. I'm not saying they should have to give up all their wealth, but how you can not have an incremental progressive tax on second, third, fourth houses when young people can't even buy their first house is bloody ridiculous. We've still got negative gearing, for God's sake. Like, it's not going to happen from the government because they don't want to be unpopular and the baby boomers are such a big population. But it's to the baby boomers out there, the people that have been so lucky, start to put your hand up and go, you know what, this is unfair. We do need to actually make the housing crisis a bit more affordable for young people. It's just bloody ridiculous.
I'll grab that segment there, Reedy, and I'll tag Albo in it, and he'll realise, because he probably doesn't realise yet that he's not very popular in Australia, mate. So after hearing that rant,
but it's just, Reedy, can we get you as an economist? Because you're like, the price of living's doubled. Maybe it's not that much. The other thing's gone up by 25%. Maybe it's not that much. I don't know.
Yeah. Mate, I'm fully rattled this morning. I think I have so much anxiety about this third recording not working out. I don't have this level of time. But yeah, no,
I can't see recorder.
Oh, dear.
Final segment. Let's do something humorous. This one, I've decided it's called, How Long Can You Leave Them Hanging?
I can't do this.
Clint, you got to stop getting so awkward with this stuff. Did you see his armpits last time we did this?
I'm not doing it. I was drenched with sweat.
All right, well, Nat, you do it.
I can't do it. I don't have my phone on me, and I'm about to jump into a meeting with in 2 minutes. So Clint's going to have to.
Mate, I can't. I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's play. You got to say truth or lie. You got to tell a fact about yourself. The other two have to guess whether it's truth or lie. We probably won't have time to do all three of us. Nat,
you go, Red.
Tell me a fact about yourself.
Oh, so it's truth. Two truths and a lie, is it?
No, just truth or lie.
Yep.
Truth or lie. With my gluten issues, my average daily times to the toilet is 6. Go to the toilet 6 times. And the other one is I was once medically had a neurological illness that put me in a wheelchair, and they said I'd never be a great triathlete.
They're both true.
They're both true.
First one's not true. I go to the toilet 8 times, not 6 times.
Oh, that is grim. The cost of living, your toilet paper.
Toilet paper. I'm out there grabbing paperbark trees, doing my best these days.
Thank you very much, Clint. Apologies again for the stuff up last show. Once again, if you can sign on to the Patreon, anyone that's made it this far into the show, we would greatly appreciate it. And 100% of that money will go towards TriMob. Nat is not here, so I can say some positive things about him. He genuinely is he's put his own money on the line to start this organisation, and they are doing incredible things. So check them out and give us a like, subscribe. I might even put this on YouTube. So
we'll post on the socials about it, and then also anyone who is interested, foundation that Sydney Marathon is working with this year, and so he's got spots. If you didn't get into the marathon, you can raise money for TriMob, run with his group, and it would mean that I wouldn't have to run because he won't have extra spots. So you should reach out to TriMob, sign up for the Sydney Marathon, and raise some money for him.
Final thing, we're not doing personal sponsors on this show, but I have noticed there's a Ventum bag just hanging over your back shoulder. So coincidentally,
Oh.
and in my back corner, there's a beautiful Diamond Radiant SL bike. It's actually, it's been at Appo's mum's for about 3 months, so I haven't been able to get down to Port Macquarie to get it, but I am looking forward to building that bad boy up. I reckon it'll outspeed your Ventum there, Clint.
Well, it depends who the pilot is. If the pilot on this bike is me, then yes, it will. But yes, new bike.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Much love. Good luck with Effed Friday in the coaching world. I'll speak to you about 9 p.m. when we're still working for a debrief. Over and out.